Let's continue, everyone. Can I gather your attention again? So now that we're all back on the same page, I'll recap. So off of the rotation, right, so this is our rotated geometry. All we were doing was trying to map a grid that's going to follow the rotation. And so I chose to use the normal because the normal is going to measure the U's and V's axes that are inherent to the surface that I've created. So what I need to actually do is move, but I want to orient. Now I keep losing where I am. All right, I think what I'm going to do is do it this way. So if I go into Translate and Euclidean, I can move to, so we've got geometry and then initial plane and final plane. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do. Orient is basically going to ask me for initial plane, which remember I said a plane can be a point. And then it'll ask me for a final plane or final point. So if I feed it 2 points, it's basically going to take a geometry, or in this case, my plane, right? What you see, the frame here, right? So a frame is a plane. I can move that from the centroid of the box to the corner of the box. So what else do I need to move it from the centroid of the box to the corner of the box? How do I find the corner? Thank you. Deconstruct BREP. So you go to Surface, Analysis, Deconstruct BREP. And what I'm going to deconstruct is the original geometry. Okay, so this is finding the centroid, and then up here is finding the geometry points. Similarly, we need to pick which point we're going to move our frame to, which is going to be a rotator. Okay, so I'm trying to create a compound rotation now. So I'm trying to rotate it on one of its edges. So I just thought of something. I'm killing you guys here, aren't I? Just a sec. Just a sec. All right, I'm going to do this instead. Sorry, I totally changed my mind. You hate me right now, I'm sure. But rather than, yeah, well, no, we still need this. We still need this. But I changed my mind from what I was thinking to something else. It's easier. All right, so this is what we're going to do. Rotate axis. Okay, so that's under Transform, Euclidean, Rotate axis, right? So you asked to see more of the different types of rotation tools. That's what I'm giving you. Rotate axis is under Transform, Euclidean. Now I've got to give it a geometry, which obviously is going to be what? The what? The rectangle, right? So the geometry is going to be the rectangle. I can feed that in. We could use now a surface, or we could use the original geometry. I'm not sure which one's going to be better in this case. I think since I created a surface, I'm just going to use that. I'll need to give it an angle. I'll worry about that later. But the more important part is the rotation axis. So what I'll need to do is select which edge of this surface I'm going to rotate around. Does that make sense? I need to select which edge of this surface I am going to rotate around. So how do I get one edge off of this surface? What was that, Anthony? Item list or list item. Right, so sets, list, list item. So I'm going to feed my edges into list item and then get a slider. So I know there are 4 sides to this geometry. So how many possible numbers am I going to have?
3.
Right, so 0 to 3. I know it's weird. And I will put that into the X. So it comes preloaded with a particular rotation at 90 degrees, which is 0.5 times pi. But we can choose how we're going to rotate just by choosing which side. So now let's actually drop a rotator onto it, a rotation parameter. So I'm going to say 0 is less than 180, right? Because this one, I don't want it to go any more than flat on the other side. Probably shouldn't go any more than 90, but we'll play around with that. Oh, sorry, I plugged it in prematurely. So I need that, but I also need under math, trig, radians. So now let's take a look at it here in 3D. I've got one of my sides selected. As I rotate it up, it becomes this very, very smooth and awesome experience, like I'm opening an iPhone box. It's so smooth. You guys know the feeling, right? Like when you open up any Apple product, it's like this smooth, just airtight unboxing process. It's really special. And that's what we've created here. Okay. So this is a good time then to come around and troubleshoot any of those errors you might have. So we still have a surface normal. We might use that. I'm going to leave it there just in case, but this is the simpler way of accomplishing a rotation along one of your edges. Oh, I almost forgot. Before I close off the video here, now the cool thing about that rotation is I've got it kind of like a folded piece of paper, but it's mapped directly to the new geometry that I'm creating with this rotator. So I can rotate this whole thing with the compound rotation. So it's fully parametrized in terms of where it is in space, which side I'm rotating. I can change that angle, I can make it obtuse, I can rotate it some more. So now it kind of looks like a laptop. Another Apple product.
Quick question.
Yes.
Let's say that was 3-sided and you were trying to build that structure that Iggy was talking about earlier.
What he's referring to is this.
Yep. Could I now modify those lines on the edge of the surfaces and make it, curve three different curves? So it has,
That's a little more difficult.
yeah, imagine so, but kind of going from here, could I go to there with this setup? Could keep going and modify those lines?
It's
bendable.
It's not exactly the same. So like these forms that we're looking at here aren't they're not parallel. The edges are not parallel, so it's not but what you'd have to do is just change the type of rotation, and that's what Iggy and I were playing around with, and that's what we're going to do next week is actually create something like this. And so rather than just a simple edge rotation, right, of the original form, right, because all we did was take this surface and rotate it around one of its edges. But when that surface is no longer just in plane, and you're actually rotating the one beyond, it becomes a little bit more complicated. Does that make any sense?
Yeah.
So, actually, I just thought of a way that might make it easier than what I was trying to do earlier. So
what I'm actually looking for are essentially digital sculpting tools. Like you put in parameters and those.
yeah. So what I would say is, well, let me stop this video and we'll play around with that a little bit. So we'll just do some kind of off-the-cuff exploring with that, except now we're actually going to use separate geometries that we're then going to just modify in Grasshopper.